So there are a number of variables you're going to encounter anytime you record with a microphone that I want to go over with you. The most obvious variables are the sounds that you are going to be making. So the way that you're singing or the way that you're playing your instrument, those will undoubtedly have a big effect on how your recording will ultimately sound. But the good news is that's an area that you have total control over. So practice, do a bunch of takes, do whatever you need to do. That's how you minimize those variables. Another variable is the type of microphone you're using. If you bought one of the microphones we recommended, you're going to be in good shape for any beginning stage of recording. As you become more familiar with this microphone, and if you research any other types of microphones, you might find that you want something else, one that takes in sound differently. Perhaps it's darker or warmer or brighter. All these descriptions that will become more familiar to you with more experience. Right now, you don't have to worry about it. You have a decent mic, and there are more variables that should be of more concern to you. In fact, here's a big one. Room acoustics! The room you're in can have a great effect on the recordings you take. Based on the width and height of the room, what the walls are made of, what the ceiling's made of, what the floor is made of, how full the room is of other objects. All of these things come into play in terms of how the sound you make is going to reflect off of all of the surfaces in the room. All of those sounds feed right back into your microphone. Ideally, you're in a dry room, which means all the sounds you make don't have a lot of reverberation or echo after the initial sound. If you find that you are in a room with a lot of reverberation or echo, the quickest fix is just to switch rooms if you can. If that's not possible, you'll want to deaden the room as much as you can. People buy these acoustic panels to add to walls and ceilings for dampening and absorbing sound, or add rugs to hardwood floors if they're not carpeted, things like that. And to make the best use of any room that you're recording in, it's best to stay clear from recording right next to a wall, but also to stay clear from recording right in the center of the room. Both of these spots can result in weird acoustic things happening. So the best spot to record from a microphone is in this sort of middle ring, like halfway between a wall in the center of the room, if you can. Okay, on to another variable that you have complete control over when you're recording. Mic placement. Mic placement. Mic placement. This is your instruments or your mouth's distance from the mic. A rule that I've heard and that I try to follow is to try to place your face or your instrument 8 to 10 inches away from the microphone. A quick way to measure this. First, I place my pop filter 4 inches away from the microphone. I use the width of my hand as a quick measuring tool. Then on the other side of the pop filter, I make sure I can fit another flat hand between my mouth or instrument, along with a bit of wiggle room. This usually amounts to 8 to 10 inches. Oh, and if you think you don't need your pop filter, here's what that sounds like. Overtime! B's and P's and T's. Another downside to standing too close is that any small movement you make with your head is going to be picked up exponentially more than if your head was 10 inches back in that sweet spot. I've been building my castle of love. Of course, if you're too far away, you're just going to be too quiet. And then you're competing more with the room and the way that your voice is reflecting off of the surfaces rather than the direct sound that you're making right into the microphone. So yeah, just shoot for that sweet spot, 8 to 10 inches, and you'll be right as rain. Overtime, I've been building my castle of love. All right, yet another variable that you have complete control over, gain staging. Basically, this is when you decide how much amplification you're applying to your microphone when you record it. You have a little knob corresponding to each of your inputs. So if your mic is plugged into input 1, you're going to be turning up knob 1 in order to hear your mic. So with this input 1 gain knob, you'll want to turn it up to a point where your meters in GarageBand are sitting right in the middle. So what that means is when you're doing a little mic check and you see the meters going up and down, they only go up to about 50 or 60%, still in the green, nowhere near the top or the red. We record at a modest level, and then we can adjust the gain later in our DAW, GarageBand. That way we have complete control and we aren't surprised when our recording was maybe too hot and starts to clip. Basically, stay out of the red, stay in the green. And outside of your DAW, you have a little meter on the front of your audio interface that will also keep you in check. One last variable to be aware of. What other noises do you hear in the room that you're in? Is there a window to outside where there's street noise? You might want a sound blanket or curtain for that window. Is the air vent blowing air? Or is there an AC unit on in a room nearby? These might sound silly, but they can really be picked up in a recording. Here's a clip of me showing you what sounds were happening around my microphone before I started recording. Drastic difference, right? Check this next one out. Totally crazy that the mic could pick that up. If you're recording at an appropriate level, you might not encounter these kinds of things. But it makes a world of a difference when you eliminate as many sounds as possible before you start recording, especially these white noises that we oftentimes don't even notice.